Mr. Brady? Mr. Brady is absent at the moment. Ms. Baker? Here. Mr. Miller?
Here.
There is a quorum.
Thank you. Jean, has anyone signed in for public comment related to the agenda?
No one has signed in, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Can we have a motion for the approval of minutes from our July 18th meeting?
I move we approve the minutes from July 18th.
Moved by Councilman Miller. Do we have a second? Second. Moved and seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And one abstention. All right. We have one item referred to committee today. And I want to first thank Ms. Downing for being here today and for your willingness to serve on the Charter Review Commission. Instead of repeating the term of Charter Review Commission, I want to let everyone know that we may be using the abbreviation CRC or referencing it as the Commission throughout this meeting. Your role on the Commission is a vital part of our new government. As the Cuyahoga County Charter was recently and overwhelmingly approved by the voters in 2009, we believe the new government has been working very well, but we know that there's always room for improvement, which, if confirmed, will be the Commission's charge. For some brief background, this is the second Charter Review Commission in the history of Cuyahoga County. The first CRC was appointed in summer of 2012 and met throughout 2012 and the first half of 2013. However, prior to the first CRC, Council put two charter amendments on the ballot in 2012, which both were successfully approved by the voters. On the recommendation of the first CRC, Council ultimately approved 4 charter amendments to go on the ballot, all of which were approved by the voters. In 2014, Council put an additional 4 charter amendments on the ballot, 3 of which were approved by the voters. Finally, in 2015, Council put 1 additional charter amendment on the ballot, tweaking the previous charter amendment that failed in 2014, which was ultimately approved by the voters. So, since the charter form of government became effective in 2011, 10 charter amendments have been approved by the voters. Once this new Charter Review Commission completes its work, the next CRC will not be appointed until 2027, which is 10 years away. So the work all of you will be undertaking over the next year will be very important for the future of our county government, and I look forward to working with each of you. For today's committee meeting, I will ask you a set of prepared questions. Since we received backup documents on your experience, you will not be required to provide an opening statement. After we complete the prepared question, we will hear additional follow-up questions from the rest of the committee. And Ms. Downing, if you would please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, if I may read the item into the record.
Yes.
Resolution number 2017-0135, confirming the county executive's appointment of Diane M. Downing to serve on the Cuyahoga County Charter Review Commission for the term September 1, 2017 through August 31, 2018.
Thank you. So, again, thank you, Ms. Downing, for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. As you know, the charter says no more than 5 of the members of for the CRC can be of the same political party. Although this information was included in the backup material, I would like to have this included in the official record. So please state your name, political party, and city of residence.
Diane Downing, Republican, City of Cleveland.
Thank you. How did you learn about the position on the CRC?
County Executive Budish called me about it.
Have you gotten a chance to review the rules of the CRC the council passed? Those rules require that the CRC is required to at least meet monthly. Does your schedule allow for such a time commitment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Are you currently serving on any other government, private, or nonprofit boards or commissions?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman. As part of my work with Huntington Bank, I serve as the Corporate Affairs Senior Vice President, and part of that is interfacing with the community and working on sponsorships and donations for nonprofit groups. So as part of that, I do serve on several nonprofit boards, such as the Centers for Families and Children, Beach Brook, the Girl Scouts, several others. But at this time, other than the Audit Committee for the City of Cleveland, I do not serve on any government boards.
The rules of the CRC require all meetings be open to the public. Do you have any issues or concerns over that?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Also, council would like all the CRC meetings to be live streamed. Are you okay with this as well?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
The CRC is to operate as an independent commission, but input from county officials, including council and the administration, will be critical to your work on the CRC. How will you balance being independent while at the same time receiving valuable input from county officials?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I believe it's all part of the review process where there will be input from county officials who work on these issues every day, and they affect their ability to do their work. But there will also be information and testimony given from citizens as we do our public hearings throughout the county. So I see it as a process of receiving information, reviewing it with the committee members, and then making recommendations. And I see that as an independent process.
How do you envision the CRC managing and incorporating input from the public into your deliberations and discussions?
I think there's a good example, Mr. Chairman, with the prior commission in that they held, I believe it was 26 hearings throughout the county. And so I look forward to those opportunities to be in different parts of Cuyahoga County and receiving information. In addition, there was a robust schedule of meetings with county officials, elected and appointed, and I look forward to that as well.
Please provide one skill or asset that you possess that will benefit the CRC.
While my career has spanned 40 years, 23 of those were spent in the public sector. I began my career, I came to Cleveland to work for County Commissioner Seth Taft in the late 70s. And so I've worked not in this form of county government, but with the same types of responsibilities administered by a county government of 3 county commissioners. I then spent about 20 years at the city of Cleveland working for both mayors Voinovich and White, starting at the city when the city was in default. And the last project I did for Mayor White, having been part of his executive team, was I was the project manager for the Cleveland Browns Stadium, for the demolition of the old stadium and the construction of the new one. And since then, I've served in different capacities on government boards, such as the Civil Service Commission for the City of Cleveland and the Port Authority.
What do you see as the biggest issue currently facing Cuyahoga County government?
I think there are always challenging issues in any level of government. Perhaps the one that is most distressing at the moment is the opioid crisis and the county's response, the efforts that are being made both by the executive and the council to address it.
If you're familiar with the previous CRC from 2012 and 2013, what would be the one thing you would change from the way that commission operated versus how you would want this CRC to operate?
I've read the materials that were sent to me about the report that was submitted by the last CRC. I thought it was a good process, at least from the paper report. I was not actively involved in that one. So to answer your question, I wouldn't see making any changes at this time.
Knowing what you know about how current county government functions and the county charter, what do you believe is the number one area of concern that needs to be addressed by this Charter Review Commission?
I have reviewed the documents, but I have been told in separate conversation that the Personnel Review Commission should be looked at as something that the Charter Review Commission should review.
Do you believe there are any current positions within county government that should go from an elected office to an appointed office, or vice versa?
Mr. Chairman, not at this time.
In your consideration for taking on this appointment, do you have a best practice example from another government entity that you would like to see implemented at Cuyahoga County?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anything else you would like this committee to know about your appointment?
No, Mr. Chairman, but I do appreciate the opportunity to serve, and I thank you for this time for my review.
Thank you. At this time, are there any questions from the committee?
Yes.
All right. Councilman Miller.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Downing, thank you very much for your willingness to serve in this very significant and it's a time-consuming process. We appreciate your willingness to make this time available. First, I'm going to offer a comment, the same comment that I offered at the last two meetings, which was the last Charter Review Commission. I thought overall did an outstanding job and had a very good process. However, there was an aspect where with some of the more complex amendments that they were considering, it got fairly late in the process before the concepts were identified, and they really did not have enough time to flesh out the details of all the options about the specific language, and also they did everything out of the committee of the whole, and so I'm just going to suggest that you might consider first trying to have an early identification of concepts that you're interested in that are complex and need a lot of consideration of the specific language, and that you might consider developing subcommittees of 3 or 4 members to take a particular concept and work in detail on the language drafting and then bring it back to the full committee. And you might have 3 or 4 of these going on at the same time, and you might be able to get more done. So I put that out there. In terms of questions, could you say a little bit more about what you did in your role when you were working for county government?
Well, I had just graduated from college in New York, from Vassar, and Seth, at that time, Commissioner Taft and Commissioner Voinovich were the first Republican majority in 50 years to be 2 of the 3 members of the county commission, and they were looking at expanding their staff to include a legislative aide. And so Seth actually came to campus and interviewed me before I graduated and asked me to join him in Cleveland to work on different issues related to his administration of county government. And so I came to Cleveland in July of '77 and stayed working in his office, working on different issues. He was always very focused on human services. So at that time, the county hospital had some various issues, and I know this is ancient history, but so did the Department of Human Services in the delivery of payments. And so we worked a lot on that. And he and George Voinovich were really looking at ways to modernize county government at that time. In 1978, he lost his bid for reelection to Ed Feehan. And George Voinovich at that time went on to be lieutenant governor with Governor Rhodes. So I left the service of the county, but it was a great learning experience for me being new to Cleveland, and county government, because of everything that it covers then and now, even more now, was very important to my education to get acclimated to Cleveland and Cuyahoga County. It was also the first time that there was an economic development department. So as the county now focuses on different opportunities for economic development, that was started to be formalized back then. So then George Voinovich was asked to run for mayor in 1979, and I joined him at City Hall in 1980.
Having worked under the old form of government and seeing now the new form of government, what do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of the new government?
Well, I think the strength is that you do not have the separate elected official, shall I say, fiefdoms that were evident under the old form of county government. There are many ways to become more efficient and to really look across a wide spectrum of services and look for ways to make the best use of taxpayer money. So I was certainly a supporter of the initiative that went on the ballot to form this new county government. And I think it's that there's been a lot of work done to centralize and to make things much more efficient.
There are a number of provisions in the county charter, including for the review commission members themselves, that reference how many members are members of this political party or that political party, to aimed at providing a political party balance. Do you think such provisions still provide a useful purpose, or do you think that that's outdated and maybe we should move away from that?
I think it still provides a useful purpose. I believe in the two-party system. I believe that the parties should be represented, and within those two parties being represented, there should be, we always should look at diversity and inclusion. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions from the committee? Councilwoman?
Thank you, and I would agree with Councilman Miller. Your background and work ethic, and your willingness really to serve, I'm very grateful. I think you would make an outstanding member on the Charter Review Committee.
Thank you.
My question for you is that this is a unique time for us to get together, because it will be the last time for another 10 years before the Charter Review comes together. So I would anticipate there could be additional pressure of wanting different issues covered, knowing that this is the last time that certain things will be heard. Mm-hmm. How do you, understanding that, how will you prepare for trying to stay within perhaps what the majority on the Review Commission will ultimately present to us, and not have it be so broad because of all the perhaps inquiries and requests that may come your way?
Well, I think that we need to look at what Councilman Miller just suggested, and that is looking at a subcommittee system that addresses all of the topics that might be considered. And then I think we really need to have a detailed schedule as to how we're going to bring those forward. And part of that will be prioritizing. So giving everyone the opportunity to comment and have input, but then making a very clear timeline on how we are going to bring things forward, having gotten comment, but also being mindful of what needs to get done within the time that we have. So that's broad. I know that it is, but I've had to do it in other circumstances, in other governments where I've served, in other places where I've served. So I don't think it's not possible. It's just that we need to keep with it and not let things slip, or not let our attention be diverted to all of the different items that may come before us, because to your point, Councilwoman, it will be another decade before we look at it again.
Thank you. Good answer.
Councilwoman?
Thank you for your willingness to serve. We appreciate your background and experience. And just point of clarification, and the pressure that you may feel that the commission only is formed and meets every decade. Beside that, our county charter allows council to put forth charter amendments at any time. So that pressure really is only, as far as it goes in terms of convening a group. But we always can look at any kind of amendments that come up that can't be addressed at your work sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was just reflecting what might come to us and staying on track. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
There are no further questions? Yes. Well, Ms. Downing, again, we thank you for your willingness to serve. Your experience speaks for itself, and we appreciate you being here today. At this time, I'm going to make a motion that we move Ms. Downing's appointment to the full council under a second reading suspension. Do we have a moved in second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Again, any final comments?
No, I just, again, want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the members for this opportunity and the opportunity to address you today.
Great.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
At this time, is there any miscellaneous business? Jean, has anyone signed in for public comment?
No.
All right. Well, if nothing else holds our attention, this committee meeting is adjourned.